A forgotten child from a shattered world just spoke a message that shook the galaxy. Hunted, alone, and believed to be lost. But she survived, and now she's sending a signal no one expected. This is not a story about war. It's a story about hope born in silence, and the people brave enough to protect it. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel, and like the video, and tell us where you are watching from now. Let's jump into the story. Orion 4 was a frozen world buried in silence and smoke. Snow fell sideways in the wind. The sky never cleared. The war above had painted it gray. Riven Hale moved through the ruins of an old village. His boots cracked ice as he stepped over broken beams and shattered glass. Smoke drifted from the wreckage. Somewhere nearby, artillery still echoed like distant thunder. His chest burned from the cold. His rifle hung loosely in his hands. He wasn't here on orders anymore. He wasn't here for the mission. He had wandered. For reasons he couldn't explain. He turned a corner and stopped. There, half buried under stone and ice, was a child. Her skin was pale with a silver hue, small and fragile. Tangled white hair covered her face. She didn't cry. She didn't move. Only her eyes opened slowly when she saw him. They glowed faintly. Alien. Riven knelt down. He checked her for wounds, bruises, cuts, signs of trauma. Her clothes were torn and soaked. Her hands were curled into fists. She was still alive. He looked around. There were no bodies nearby, no signs of family. Only wreckage and ash. His voice cracked in the cold. "Can you hear me?" The girl stared at him. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. Riven reached into his coat and pulled out a thermal wrap. He wrapped it around her shoulders and lifted her gently into his arms. She didn't resist. She barely weighed anything. His cum buzzed in his ear. "Hall, report back. Base says evac in 10. He didn't answer. He turned off the cum and moved toward the hills. Behind him, flames took what was left of the village. Riven walked for hours. Through snow, through silence, through his own thoughts. Every time he looked down, she was watching him. Not scared, not angry, just quiet. He found a cave near the ridge. It was shallow but dry, enough to block the wind. He lit a small flare for heat and leaned against the rock wall. The girl sat across from him, still wrapped in the thermal blanket. She hadn't spoken, not a sound. But she hadn't tried to run either. Riven took out a ration bar and handed it to her. She looked at it, sniffed it, then bit slowly. He watched her eat like it was her first real food in days. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't reply. Riven exhaled. "You're not supposed to be here. Neither am I." She finished the ration and looked into the firelight. For a moment, her eyes reflected the flame like mirrors. The wind howled outside. Riven pulled his coat tighter. "They'll come looking. Not for me. For you." He knew the truth. Command wouldn't see her as a child. They'd see her as a threat. A data point. A liability. But he couldn't hand her over. Not after seeing her like this. Not after watching her survive. He lay down on the cold stone. Sleep came slowly. When he woke, the flare had dimmed, but she was still there. Sitting, watching. She pointed at his side. He looked down. His coat was stained red. He hadn't noticed the shrapnel wound. Small, but bleeding. "You saw that, huh?" he muttered. She crawled closer. Her small hands touched his coat. She didn't flinch at the blood. Instead, she placed one hand gently on his ribs. A warmth spread through him. Not just in his body. Something deeper. Something strange. His eyes widened. But the pain eased. She looked at him, and for the first time, she spoke. Safe. Just one word, soft, barely. A whisper. Riven didn't know what to say. He nodded once. Yeah, you're safe. They stayed like that, surrounded by cold stone and flickering light. Outside, snow kept falling. But inside the cave, for the first time in years, Riven felt something real. Not orders, not war, just the quiet bond between a man and a child who shouldn't have survived. Yet here they were. Alive, together. And neither of them wanted to be alone again. The wind was sharp on the high ridge. Snow swept across the path like a river of cold light. The sky above was pale and empty. Orient 4 had no sun today. Just frost, silence, and the steady crunch of boots. Riven Hall moved carefully through the pass. The child, wrapped tightly in his coat and thermal blanket, clung to his back. Her arms were locked around his shoulders. She didn't make a sound. He didn't know how much farther they could go. His wound had started bleeding again. Each step sent pain up his side. But stopping now meant freezing, and the girl was already shivering. He scanned the horizon. No signs of movement. No smoke. No life. He checked the scanner. Still dead. The battery had frozen hours ago. His breath came out in clouds. His fingers were numb. But he kept walking. He spoke softly, more to keep himself awake than anything else. We're going to find shelter. A cave. A cabin. Something. The girl's voice was quiet. Safe. He smiled slightly. Yeah, safe. They reached a narrow ridge above a drop. Beyond the ledge was a valley filled with jagged ice. Sharp and dangerous. But tucked inside, half covered in snow, was a dark shape. A structure. Riven's heart jumped. He moved quickly, but carefully down the slope. Snow crunched beneath his boots. The girl held tighter. At the base of the valley, he reached the door of the old structure. The metal was rusted, but solid. He wiped off a layer of ice and found a faded symbol. It was a resistance outpost. Abandoned. He slammed his fist on the control panel. Nothing. He stepped back and kicked it hard. Once. Twice. The door creaked open. Warm air hit his face. A working generator. He stepped inside. The lights flickered to life. Weak and orange. The place was small. A single room. Storage racks, a sleeping cot, and an old stove in the corner. He laid the girl down on the cot. She curled into the blanket, her eyes half closed. Riven collapsed against the wall. His vision blurred. Pain stabbed through his ribs. He reached for the med kit. But before he could open it, the door creaked again. His hand went to his weapon. A voice called out, "You're bleeding." A woman stepped inside, tall, layered in furs. A rifle on her back. Riven aimed. "Who are you?" She raised her hands. "Amira. I used to run with the resistance. I come here for shelter when the storms get bad." He lowered the gun slowly. "How long have you been here?" "2 days," she said. "Thought you were a patrol." "Not anymore." She looked at the child. Her eyes softened. "You're running," she said. Riven nodded. "She was left behind. I couldn't leave her." Amira stepped closer and knelt beside the girl. "She's not human." "I know." Amira checked the girl's pulse. "But she's stable." Riven slumped back and winced. "I'm not." Amira opened the med kit and patched his wound. Her hands moved fast, practiced. "You're lucky," she said. "A few more hours out there, and neither of you would have made it." Riven closed his eyes. The girl spoke again, her voice clearer now. "Warm." Amira raised an eyebrow. "She speaks." "A little," Riven said. "More than yesterday." Amira sat across from him. "You know they'll come for her." "They already tried," he said. "I'm not giving her up." Amira was quiet. Then she nodded. "Then you'll need help." They stayed in the outpost for 2 days, Amira cooked what food she had. Riven rested. The girl slowly began to speak more. Her name was Nysa. She didn't say where she came from, but her eyes told stories no words could carry. On the third morning, Riven woke to the sound of footsteps. Ara was at the door, rifle in hand. "Someone's coming," she said. Riven grabbed his pack and moved to the girl. She was awake, already dressed. Amira led them through a hatch in the floor. A tunnel ran beneath the outpost. Old escape route. They followed it in silence. Above them, voices shouted. Soldiers. One of them called out, "Lieutenant Mern." No sign of Hala yet, but tracks lead here. Riven clenched his jaw. Amira whispered, "This tunnel leads to the cliffs. We'll have cover." They moved fast. At the end of the tunnel, snow poured in through a broken grate. Amira helped lift Nysa through first. Riven followed. They crawled out into the cold light. Patrol ship hovered in the distance. Riven looked down the slope. Too steep. They had to climb higher. They moved along the ridge, hugging the wall. Then a blast hit the snow near them. A warning shot. Riven turned and fired once, just enough to distract. Amira grabbed Nysa and leapt behind a rock. Riven ran toward them. A second blast hit the ridge. The edge cracked. Riven's foot slipped. The snow gave way. Amira reached for him, but he was gone. Falling. Down into the ice below. Amira covered Nysa's eyes. When the smoke cleared, there was no sound. Only frost. Only silence. Amira knelt at the cliff's edge, eyes fixed on the ice below. The snow had settled. The air was still. But Riven Holly was gone. Nysa stood behind her, silent and trembling. Her small fingers clutched the edge of Amira's coat. Amira forced herself to move. She couldn't stay exposed. Not with patrol ships nearby. Not with a child in danger. She led Nysa down a narrow trail behind the ridge. The path was rough, barely visible beneath the snow. Her breath was heavy in the cold. Every step was slower than the last. After an hour of climbing, they reached an opening in the rock wall. Amira pushed through the snow-covered entrance and stepped into darkness. It was a tunnel, forgotten, carved during the early days of resistance. On a URION-4. Safe. For now, Amira lit a small lamp and turned to Nysa. "We'll rest here?" Nysa didn't speak. Amira noticed the change. The glow in Nysa's eyes had dimmed. Her shoulders were tight. Her face was blank. "You saw him fall," Amira said gently. Nysa gave no answer. She curled up on the stone floor and turned away. Amira sat nearby, staring at the flame. She thought about Riven, about his decision to protect a child no one else would have saved. She wondered if she would have done the same. Hours passed. The tunnel stayed quiet. Then came footsteps. Not many. Not armored. Amira raised her rifle. The lamp flickered. A figure appeared in the entrance. He was limping, coat torn, face pale. Riven Holly. Amira dropped the rifle. He stepped inside and collapsed. Nysa ran to him. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just held his hand. Amira patched him up as best she could. His ribs were bruised. One arm was cut deep. But he was alive. He drank water slowly and whispered, "How long was I gone?" "A few hours," Amira said. "We thought you were dead." "So did I." Nysa rested her head against his chest. For the first time since they met, she slept. Days passed inside the tunnel. Riven healed. Nysa grew quieter. Something in her had changed. Amira noticed it too. One evening, she asked, "How much do you know?" "About her?" "Not much," Riven replied. "Only that she shouldn't be alone." Amira nodded. There's something inside her. Something strong. Riven looked at the child. I've seen it. Amira reached into her pack and pulled out an old data drive. Before the war, I studied ancient communication systems, she said. Some of the alien species use memory transfer. Visual language, not words. Riven raised an eyebrow. You think she understands more than she lets on? I know she does, Amira said. And I think she wants to show us. They built a makeshift terminal using scraps from the outpost.nysa sat in front of it. Her fingers hesitated, then began to move. Symbols appeared on the screen, glowing, shifting. Alive.am, IRA gasped. This is real. It's not just data. It's memory. Images flashed across the screen. A city made of light. A planet torn by war. Figures running, hiding, falling. And then, a child. Nysa. Alone. Riven's chest tightened. AMIRA whispered. She's the last. The screen dimmed. NYSA looked at Riven. Her voice broke the silence. Home. Gone. Riven knelt beside her. You still have us. Amira closed the terminal. We can't stay here forever. The Council is watching every zone. There's one place they don't control, Riven said. A place called the Vein. Old tunnels under Sector 12. Disconnected from the grid? Amira hesitated. I've heard the name, but no one goes there. They will now, Riven said. The next morning, they moved again. Through snow, through silence, through fading light. Riven led the way. Amira followed close. Nysa stayed between them. They reached the edge of the sector by nightfall. The entrance to the vein was hidden behind a broken wall. Metal doors rusted shut. But Riven forced them open. Inside, darkness welcomed them. The tunnels were deep, cold, but safe from drones and scanners. They set up camp in an old storage room, dry, sealed. Perfect for hiding. AIRA worked on fixing the terminal. Riven explored the nearby tunnels. Nysa drew symbols in the dust. Hope flickered. Just enough to keep going. But outside, in the high towers of the command zone, Lieutenant Sailor Mern reviewed new reports. He found a trail. Heat signatures in the mountains. Static in the air. He watched the footage. A man, a woman, a child. He stood from his desk. Find them, he ordered. The tunnels beneath Sector 12 were silent. Cold pipes lined the walls. Thick cables hung like vines. Every step echoed through the dark. Old lights flickered and faded. Most were dead. Riven walked ahead, rifle in hand. Behind him, Amira carried the gear. Nysa stayed close to her side. They had been moving for 2 days. No signs of patrols. No drones. Only shadows. At last, they found it. A heavy steel door marked with the symbol of the First Alliance. Faded. Scratched. Nearly forgotten. Riven placed his hand on the scanner. Nothing. IRA stepped forward. Let me try something. She pulled out a cracked codeboard and connected it to the control panel. Sparks jumped. The system hummed. Lights blinked red, then green. The door unlocked. With a hiss. It opened. Warm air flowed out. They stepped inside. It was a forgotten haven, once built for peacekeepers, long abandoned, yet somehow still alive. Solar walls powered dim lights. Water tanks still cycled. Filtration systems HUMMED. In the center of the room stood a tall, silver device. Amira's eyes widened. That's a core translator. Riven looked at Nysa. You think she's ready? Nysa nodded slowly. AMIRA activated the machine. Soft light filled the room. The core pulsed with color. It reacted to Nysa's presence. She stepped into the light. Symbols peered around her, floating, shifting. Ancient. The room grew still. Riven and Amira watched as images began to form, not on a screen. In the air, a city of spires, peaceful streets, voices singing in a language made of light, then the sky turned red, ships rained fire, screams, chaos, NYS stood in the center of it all, untouched, watching her past play out. The images faded, the light dimmed, and then, for the first time, Nysa spoke clearly. They destroyed my world, but not my people. We are still here. Amira stepped forward. You mean others survived? Nysa nodded. Not many. Scattered, hidden. Riven looked at the translator. Can we use this? Send a message? Amira checked the system. Yes, it's old, but powerful. We can broadcast across every channel. Riven turned to Nysa. What do you want to say? Nysa looked at both of them. Her voice soft but strong. I want them to know we remember, and we forgive. But we will not hide. Amira smiled. Then let's help you speak. They worked through the night. They repaired the antenna. They cleaned the transmitters. They wrote her message in every known language. By dawn, the system was ready. NYSA stepped into the light once more. The translator pulsed. She closed her eyes. Her voice echoed through the tunnel. To those who hear this, I am Nysa of the Lost. I was once a child of peace. Now I walk in silence. But I am not afraid. To the ones who hunt us, know this. We are not gone. We are not broken. We are the spark you could not extinguish. Her voice spread like wind. Across towers. Across walls. Across space. On distant colonies. People listened. In hidden shelters. Survivors wept. In council chambers. Leaders paused. In command centers. Sirens went off. Lieutenant Sailor Mern heard it too. He watched the feed. He saw the child. He saw the power in her eyes. And for a moment, he hesitated. In the tunnel, Riven stood beside Nysa. It's done, he said. Amir exhaled. We made history. Riven looked around the old room. The lights glowed a little brighter now. Nysa turned to him. You kept me safe. Riven nodded. You gave me something to protect. Amira smiled. We're not soldiers anymore. Riven looked at the exit. We're something else now. They stayed in the haven for a week. Others came. Engineers. Teachers. Healers. People who wanted to start again. No flags. No weapons. Only hope. NYSA walked among them. She taught some to speak. In symbols. She laughed. She played. She became more than a survivor. She became a voice. On the final night, Riven stood outside the haven. He looked up at the stars. Mira joined him. Do you think they'll let this last? She asked. Riven didn't answer right away. Then he said, they might try to stop it. Amira nodded. And if they do? Riven smiled. Then we remind them that peace is not weakness, and hope is not surrender. Nysa stood in the doorway. Behind them, lights surrounded her. And in that quiet place, beneath a cold and broken world, the flame of something new began to rise. Not in battle, not in victory, but in quiet hope. In quiet hope, when shared, could light the stars.